Hey guys, today's cake is a heart cake, and so as always, I like to bake my cake in a baking sheet because I personally do not own a heart pan. And so what I'll do is I'll take a piece of parchment paper and cut it to the size that I want, and then I also make sure that not only does it fit on my cake board that I'm using, but also that I have enough room for any kind of borders that I'm planning. And so if you're planning to do a buttercream border, make sure you have enough room so that way when you're transporting your cake and everything, that you're not going to smudge it up. So this cake is a lemon cake with fresh blueberries, and so they are so delicate. So that's why I piped on my crumb coat, because I have found if I pipe it on, it definitely doesn't cause as many crumbs to be pulled off versus just slapping on your buttercream. The other thing I wanted to point out, do you see how much I'm getting down to eye level? I don't feel like I expressed this enough in my previous videos. I get down to eye level so much just to make sure that everything is nice and straight. And so make sure that you do that. So after I chilled it for about 30 minutes, it was ready for its final coat. And so one thing that I have noticed that I have been getting asked in my comments is how do I get those edges? I call it like a little ridge at the top. What I do is I smooth out right here. I make sure my top is very smooth and I push all that buttercream out to the edges. And so it's kind of overflowing. And then that way, when I take my scraper, do you see how those edges kind of pop up? That's how I get those edges. And so then once I place it in the fridge, and I also clean up my border before I place it in the fridge, but I put it in the fridge, got my other frosting prepped, and then that way my edges were ready to be scraped off. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll make sure that I go more in detail on my other videos that are coming up. But for this little look, I used the color Coral from Americolor. And so I just used the tiniest bit for my first shade, and then I went in a little more heavy for my second. And then for my third shade, I did use just my Americolor pink with a tad of purple. And then I went in with one of my favorite piping tips, and I piped on that border, and I did add some sprinkles on that pink color. And you guys, that's it. It is such a fun design to make. I love that it has no limit to designs, but if you have someone special, I really encourage you to make them a cake. Just go for it. I know you can do it, and I'm rooting for you.